cabinet investigation report, we can see we're going
page 70 or page 7?
17.
Yes, thank you.
Larry White writes that my work is purely theoretical.
So what's the question, Mr. Thomas?
Can you identify? So this is from the essentially third paragraph, which says, rather, GT said that finance is at its heart an empirical school of thought. He said there are very few finance theorists and no finance theorists at the university. Of the very few PhD candidates in Australia who attempted a theoretical PhD, GT said he understood none had been successful. And the paragraph before that, GT gave evidence as to the background to this allegation. In his confirmation paper and seminar, GT said the complainant proposed a theoretical PhD. GT said it is highly unusual for a finance PhD candidate to attempt a purely theoretical PhD. Indeed, GT said purely theoretical work is unusual within academic finance. Now, when we go to page 12, or we can just go to page 60, the previous page. So on the summary of Stephen Brown's evidence, it says, Stephen Brown said that the complainant supervisory committee met in confidence after the complainant's confirmation meeting. In that meeting, Stephen Brown said the committee determined that the theoretical components of the dissertation did not meet the required standard, the technical standards to be accepted as partial completion of a doctoral degree. The committee's sense was to fail the confirmation, but the committee did not want to terminate the complainant's candidature. The committee determined that some aspects of the empirical component of the work could constitute an acceptable thesis. In your view, is it possible for something that is purely theoretical to also contain empirical aspects?
Well, do you have any way of knowing the answer to that question?
I'm not an academic, it's not my area.
I've not discussed any specific area of anything with you. The only thing I've said, do you understand what empiricism is or what it means for something to be empirical?
Yes.
Do you understand what it means for something to be purely theoretical?
Yes.
Are the two mutually exclusive?
No, I guess not.
They're not?
I guess so. I'd be not clear, sir.
Say again?
Are they?
You've said you're not an academic. Are you got qualifications in finance or?
I'm not discussing finance at all. I've said,
In that case, Your Honour, I object on the basis of relevance.
I'm not discussing finance, I'm discussing the propriety of the investigation report.
Alright, do you have any knowledge at all about the way in which this issue of work being theoretical or empirical is relevant to assessing a candidate for PhD?
That's not what I'm asking. Your Honour, with respect, Your Honour, that's not what I'm asking.
This witness has got no evidence that he can give of any relevance to as to this issue, Mr. Thomas.
No. The witness has said he can tell whether something is empirical, and witness, does that mean that it involves the analysis of real-world data?
Yes.
And something that is purely theoretical, you said you understand. Does that mean that it does not involve the analysis of any kind of data?
Again, I'm not an academic.
I'm not discussing any academic thing. You've said you know what it means for something to be purely
Objection,
theoretical.
Your Honour. The witness's evidence as to his own knowledge of what's empirical and what's theoretical is totally irrelevant to these proceedings.
Can I ask you, what degrees do you have, Mr. Caswell?
I have a Bachelor of Arts in Languages and a postgrad in Human Resources.
So you don't have any background in the concepts that are being put to you at the moment?
Not in any deep way, no.
What concepts are we discussing? I'm discussing, have you ever done any empirical work in your studies?
No, I don't believe so.
Well, you've just told me that you know that the empirical involves the analysis of real-world data.
Well, look, I'm not going to let this line of questioning go any further. It's really not going to assist me in what task I have in front of me.
The task in front of you is to determine whether or not this investigation was proper.
Yes, thank you. If you could go to the next issue.
No, the question is, can something both be purely theoretical and empirical at the same time? He has said he knows what each of those two things mean.
want to consider that answer. Do you know the difference between theoretical and empirical?
He's already said yes, he's already said so.
Do you want to provide me with your opinion about the difference between something
Not the difference,
theoretical and empirical?
So my understanding of pure theoretical would be that it would be based on a theory that is potentially unproven. Empirical would be a study based on numbers and data.
So purely theoretical is mutually exclusive of numbers and data.
Yes.
Yes. But in this investigation report, which we're taking as a genuine document, which is based in evidence, we can see two people making what are contrary statements. One person says it's purely theoretical, one person says it had empirical components. Is that the case based on what you've seen from this investigation report?
Sorry, I'm unclear if you're asking me what the report says or what the work was.
No, I've put what the report says. I pointed out to you two statements from the report. One on page 16 from Stephen Brown, where he says there were empirical aspects to the work, and one on page 17 from Gary Dwight, where he says the work was purely theoretical. We've just concluded that those two things are mutually exclusive. So did this investigation report, and I also read where it says GG's evidence was consistent and credible and clear. That was the paragraph which starts with rather on page 17.
So what's the question you want to put to this witness?
So the question I'm putting, does this report point to two statements from witnesses which contradict each other?
You're able to answer that question, Mr. Caswell.
It said one witness says that there's empirical work, the other says there's theoretical work.
Purely theoretical.
Yes.
And those two statements contradict each other, is that the case?
Yes.
Yes, okay.